Hi guys, and welcome back to another Community Talk podcast. And I mean, I've managed to get the band back together. I don't know how I've managed to do it. We were on the podcast how long ago that was? Probably this time last year, around about that time. And I'm back with my guys. I'm back with Haider. How you doing, mate?
I'm great, mate. It feels good to be back. Well, we used to do this in the summer, didn't we? Myself, you, and Akash, and yeah, we had great times. So it's really great to be talking to really level-headed fans and people that have knowledge about the game, because there isn't that much of that on Twitter these days.
Yeah, we're struggling on Twitter, and I'm struggling to get new guys involved in Akash. Before I move on to introducing you, like and subscribe and follow us on all the socials. Just before we get started, I mean, it would mean the world to us, because we're just a fan channel who's looking to grow and interact with level-headed United fans. And Akash, I mean, surely you guys will know the United Link. Who doesn't? Probably one of the best accounts on Twitter. So Akash, how you doing, mate?
Thanks for that, Robbie. It's extremely kind of you. I'm doing fine, mate. Thanks. It's great to be back with the band. I'm honestly extremely excited to talk football with you and Heather. And yeah, it's been a good year, and I look forward to talking football and transfers.
Yeah, so I'm going to just start off by talking about the year as a whole. And I mean, we've obviously not been on a podcast for a while, and it's been on Haider's channel. So I just want to start off by saying, what's your summary so far of the season? Haider, I'll start with you, mate, because for me, I'll give you my view so far. It was unexpected to be this high up in the league. I wasn't actually expecting to do this well, because there's clear links which we didn't manage to fill during the summer. But I basically want to know if it's more about the fact of if other teams are doing very bad, taking apart Man City, obviously they've been sensational. But if it's been us that have been playing well, or possibly just other teams playing bad, I don't know. What do you think, mate?
I think the most important thing is always focus on yourselves as a team. I always do say that. A lot of people say, oh, well, Liverpool are doing poorly, and you see Spurs doing poorly, Chelsea until Thomas Tuchel came in. But no one said that when Leicester City won the league, did they? No one was saying, oh, well, everyone was doing poorly. You just got to focus. You got to play what's in front of you. And the reality is this season is that there's a lot of inconsistency with the top six sides. And apart from Manchester City, who are, for me, head and shoulders above everybody else in this league, Manchester United deserve to be where they are, in second place. There's no doubt about it. We're in third right now, probably with Leicester winning 2-1. But I think this season is reflecting exactly what this Manchester United team is. This Manchester United team is inconsistent, but when they go on a run, they can be absolutely devastating. What you're seeing is a side that isn't quite ready to win a Premier League title, I would argue. And that's not a slight against the manager. It's just a slight against the fact that, looking at the quality of the squad, while there's some very, very good players in it, there are some major gaps in defence. We don't have a defensive midfielder, someone to sit. I don't class McTominay as a defensive midfielder. I've loved the fact that he's got forward a lot more in recent weeks. He's a really, for me, he's a very good box-to-box midfielder. I've never been that convinced of McTominay, but if you want to win the title, you need McTominay's in the squad. Like, I'm being completely honest. There's no agendas here. I love Paul Pogba, but I don't have the view that I prefer someone because I like them more. Like, McTominay's played his part and he's earned his spot in the starting 11. But I think one of my problems this season, especially in the last couple of weeks, I've spoken to Akash a few times. I've dropped a message, after a game, and like, this is just terrible, and we've had a few exchanges. I'm sure he'll agree. But when United lose a few games, the worry is that it's not a blip. It's, 2, 3, 4 poor results. And I think that when we're looking at it, that's the next level for us. I don't think you look at City. United that evening lost to Sheffield United 2-1. Manchester City went and beat West Bromwich Albion 5-0. That's the level, you see. When you've got to beat the teams that are beatable, I think over the last couple of weeks, we've seen United not do that. But I can't complain in that respect. I think the progress is definitely there. What I want to see now is I want to see us get that second spot. And I want us to be in a position that if Manchester City do drop points, if they do, and that's a big if, because I can't see where they're going to do that. We have to be there to capitalize. And that's what City did when we dropped points. And that's the difference, I think, between the two sides. Clear deficiencies, but clear progress as well. This is the best football we played since Sir Alex Ferguson. Anyone disputing that obviously isn't watching the football and isn't watching it with an objective viewpoint. And I really do hope to see that progression again. My biggest worry is that we come to the summer and I just don't see us, the board, sanctioning the players we need. And unfortunately, we'll be stuck at that, that nearly level for me. So positives, some negatives as well. But I think we are where we are because we deserve to be there.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with that. I think you're spot on by saying that we definitely need to capitalise on Manchester City's downfalls, if they actually do have any, because they look an amazing side this year. But we also obviously need to focus on ourselves. We need to get the results. But Akash, I've got a question for you, and it's, I mean, are you optimistic or pessimistic of United and how they're playing this year?
I agree word for word with Haider. He just summed it up so perfectly. I just don't know where I can disagree with what he said. But, to add on to what he said, I think amongst the fans in these times, it seems like agendas trump facts, which should certainly not be the case. Because, see, there's a stigma that is attached to Ole, and it will continue to be there till he doesn't win a trophy. And that's the reason why I really want him to, go ahead and win the Europa League and FA Cup, because he needs that kind of validation, because Frank Lampard won't be hounded like Ole was. Arteta won't be hounded like Ole was because he actually won the FA Cup. So to earn the respect of the fans who still don't believe in him, I think he needs to go out and win a trophy. I know there is progress, and I think the main fact is that slow progress is still progress, and people sometimes don't acknowledge that, and doubts will be there in all the fans when we don't manage to get a few results, and I think that's fine. Having doubts is fine. Nothing is perfect in this side yet, and our results reflect that more than anything. Whenever you see United struggling for form, they pick up the best of results against the best of sides. And then suddenly you'll see one bad result. And like Heather said, you could be worried. It could be 2 games, 3 games. So, as a United fan, you need to be ready with this roller coaster season, because I think in terms of beating Manchester City, I think we're still not there yet. In terms of consistency, in terms of mentality, the squad is still young. Pep doesn't have to deal with that. If you see his bench, he has Mahrez. If he ever wants to, um, lighten things up in attack, he has Foden. He has Gundogan. He has Bernardo Silva. And even though City are playing without a striker, you see Gabriel Jesus isn't really there. Aguero isn't really there. But you can still see that they have a system, and the players are implementing that system well. As for United, there are certain players who are not stepping up when we really need them to step up. Um, I was really, really optimistic about Marshall last season. I was so happy that he finally, helped change that perception about him that he can't play as a number 9. He really, really performed well last season. This season, not so much. Not one good game that I remember from him, to be very honest. It's disappointing, to be honest, because I think the kind of faith Ole puts in his players, like Heather rightly mentioned, McTominay. I think uh, everyone should follow McTominay. He's such a brilliant personality to have around the squad. If you look at his attitude, if you look at his mentality, it's fantastic. So we need more of McTominay's, and it's a fact that that all the players should know what it feels like to play for Manchester United. And I think we are deservedly there where we are. Maybe we might be ahead of progress. It happens sometimes, you peak a little too early in the season and then you gradually find your way through. I think that happened with United picking up good results. But gradually, when everything fell into place and City started picking up form, it's United have fallen back. And I am worried because I know City are going to spend big this summer. They are going to spend even more than what they did last summer. So it's up to United. It's up to the ambition of the owners, and that's the biggest concern because the owners aren't ambitious at all.
Yeah, it definitely comes out of ambition. Because, talking about like ambition, you look at United and you think, is Woodward going to bring in the right players? Because you look last summer and it's Donny van der Beek, who's really not getting as many minutes as I would have expected. He's struggling to find his feet. And you look at it elsewhere and you think, are they going to be able to bring in, my next point, are they going to bring in a centre-back who will basically fill our gap or our problems? Because he's got glass legs and he basically struggles to stay fit for, let's say, 3 more games in a row. For me, I don't think Lindelof's still at the right level. He's a very intelligent player. Probably would play better next to a Koundé, which I'm quickly going to move on to Akash at the moment. And I mean, I've obviously keep up to date with Akash United Link Twitter, because we got all the updates from journalists over there. Haider, I'm pretty sure you do the same. And I've seen that Andy Mitten, a positive update about Koundé, and I would like to hear, Akash, what you think about that, because for me, Koundé for Sevilla has been an absolute rock this season. Good on the ball, very fast, acceleration is spot on, exactly what we need. And for me, I think he would complement David De Gea, Harry Maguire very well, because it will allow us to play further up and not get caught out whenever the ball goes in over the top, because Koundé's got the pace to cover and help Maguire. So Akash, what's your views on Jules Koundé, and do you think there's a possibility of us signing him during the summer?
Yeah, I'm a big fan, to be honest. I think whenever I've seen him play, I think he's got that really good aura about him. He has great game awareness. I think that's one of the biggest important things that's needed for a good centre back. And the major doubts about him is with regards to his height and how he will settle in the Premier League. Considering he's not that tall. But I read this great article, beautiful article, where it was written that Koundé himself said that it doesn't matter how tall I am; it's about how I defend, not it's my style of play. And I think if players have confidence in their own ability, and I'm pretty sure that's why he's been one of the best centre backs this season, is because he has great confidence in his ability. And I think he will be a great asset to the club. Now, with regards to his transfer fee, I think there's a rumored release clause of around 80 to 90 million, but I don't think any club is going to pay that. And I think Sevilla will be aware of the fact that no club is going to be willing to pay that. So there will be negotiations. I think United might offer a good transfer fee for him. My own personal opinion is that I don't expect a lot of transfer business to happen this summer unless Pogba goes. That's likely to fund 2 big signings if Pogba goes. But if we don't see Pogba going and if he renews, then that's going to change a lot of things for United. I personally feel that a lot still depends on whether Pogba stays or Pogba goes. From what I've read, there's great willingness on Mino Raiola's part to see him go to Juventus. But I think United will concentrate on their transfer plans more as they approach the summer, because when the Pogba situation gets clear, we'll see how much money we'll have to allocate to the transfer budget. And yes, we are still interested in Sancho. I think reports are there that they still approve the interest of Manchester United, so that's a good thing. But I don't see major transfer business happening unless funds are shifted, because fans are still not back in the stadiums, and that's really impacted funds for all the major clubs in Europe. So I think fans need to be a little more realistic. So whenever I come on Twitter, I think we should sign 4 players, but we don't have that kind of money to sign 4 players, because but money is there, but United will not be careless and will not spend and splurge money unless they know that it's a long-term investment. So with Sancho, yes, he is a long-term investment. So I think Borussia Dortmund have realized that they will not get that kind of money for Sancho anymore. I think it was a silly decision on their part to not accept the money United were offering in the summer. Now it's just gone on to bite them back, and it's going to be very interesting. But as for Koundé, I think if United are saying that are looking into this signing, and I trust Andy Mitten because he's extremely well connected. So I'll take his word. I think yes, there might be good interest, and United might be one of the teams that might sign him.
Yeah, it's absolutely great news. I mean, I would definitely take Koundé at United. I think he's a great ball-playing defender as well. Just offers a lot of qualities that we don't have in defenders at the moment. And one of my main reasons is the fact he can stay fit and the fact he can play 30, 40 plus games a season without just turning his legs into glass like Eric Bailly, who, to be honest, I'm kind of over now. I'm struggling to see Eric Bailly's worth in the team. Haider, maybe you could open up on this and possibly disagree. But I think we need to kind of move players on like that. If they're on wages, these high wages, and they can't play, let's say, for him, 15 plus games a season, I don't think there's a worth in the team. So do you think that possibly Jules Koundé would be a player to replace the other centre-back role? Because, let's be real, we're going to stay with Harry Maguire. He costed 80 million. He's the captain. I quite like him. I don't know about you, but yeah, I think it's the other spot to go alongside Harry Maguire that's at risk at the moment.
I'm not convinced by Maguire. You know this. We've had a discussion in the past about Harry Maguire. I think it's almost like a weight around Ollie's neck with Maguire. The fact that he costs 80 million, the fact he's now captain. I think what he does well is he does step out of defence with the ball. You know, he can. I mean, he was our most attacking option, really, or he was driving forward against West Bromwich Albion. That should never really be the case, should it? When you're looking at it, your left centre back shouldn't be the one that's providing the most attacking impetus. I mean, it was really him and Shaw. Not a good game at all. I think one of my issues is that I don't conform to the idea that just because you suddenly bring in a Koundé, let's say a Declan Rice, I'm just giving examples here, you know, suddenly the football's got to improve, because, you know, there's still got to be, I think, just because you bring new players in doesn't mean it suddenly changes, if you know what I mean. There's that bedding in period. So that's why I'm not so convinced that, you know, people just think that if you buy these new players, suddenly everything's going to get better. It will improve. I'm not saying that. But there's got to be a bit more of a integration of the players, which I haven't seen, for example, with the likes of Donny van der Beek. I mean, this is a good point here from United Analytics about Koundé. I think he's a fantastic player. Eric Bailly's a funny one, because I think on paper his attributes match up with Harry Maguire. I think Maguire looks better next to Bailly. I don't think Lindelof's a terrible footballer per se. I think he's fantastic with the ball at his feet. Problem is, when you're playing in the Premier League, I mean, he's passive. He's not strong on the aerial ball. He gets targeted. And that partnership isn't a long-term or title-winning partnership. Am I over Eric Bailly? You're right. Look, one of Harry Maguire's biggest attributes and assets is the fact that he can keep fit. You could be the most incredibly talented footballer in the world, but if you can't keep fit for more than 20 games a season, you're not an asset for a team. And I think that's one of Bailly's biggest problems. I like Axel Tuanzebe, but if you're not going to be playing him, then you either send him out on loan to get some regular minutes in a very crucial time in his career. You know, he's about 23, 24 now. He should be playing week in, week out. And if he's not what Ollie wants, then you've got to shift him on. The problem is that, as Aka said, are we going to do a lot of business this summer? I'm not convinced. I don't think we're suddenly going to go and sign Sancho, Haaland plus a centre-back. That's not going to happen. We've got 110 million wiped off our revenue with the matchday revenue. I think massively it depends as well on where Ollie feels that they need to bring players in. For me, it's a centre-back, but actually the defensive midfield area is the most important one for me. You need someone in there, maybe an Ndidi, maybe a Rice, someone like that, who's going to allow you to go and not play Fred and McTominay together. That's going to allow you to play someone who's a bit more progressive next to him. So do I think Bailly's got a long-term future at Man United? I think he does, but I don't think he's going to be a starting centre-back. But United need to shift players on, because at the end of the day, they've got too many centre-backs. You know, you still got Phil Jones. I mean, I tweeted yesterday, 4 million a year, 4-year contract. Who the hell sanctioned that? We know who sanctioned it. It's cheap to keep someone like Phil Jones rather than to go and get an Upamecano, for example, or, you know, to go and get a Pau Torres, to go and get a Koundé, who's going to cost, what, I believe 70, 80 million or something like that. So it's a very, very difficult one. I feel like whichever manager it is, it doesn't matter if it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Jose Mourinho, you know, while money's been spent, Pep Guardiola didn't like his fullbacks, spent nearly close to 250 million on them. He's now on his third set of fullbacks because that's what a football club does, right? If the manager doesn't like it, you go and get them another one. But with United under Jose Mourinho, no, one sec. So Lindelof came in, Bailly came in. Jose didn't rate them, right? So he wanted Maguire. They didn't buy him Maguire. It's the same with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, though. It's quite clear. He's got him Maguire. He's got Lindelof and Bailly. But we need someone better to come in. But the club haven't sanctioned that. So this is what I'm trying to say, that it's the same with Klopp. You had Karius in goal. Didn't rate him. Got Alisson in. I just think that with United, there's this mentality, and it's not to do with the manager. So I'm not blaming the manager in any of these situations. I'm blaming what's above. That they're not operating like a football club. So it's about, instead of giving Oli or Jose, I'm just saying Jose because Jose was obviously before, and the same problems that happened with Jose. He got second, and they gave him Fred, Dallo, and Lee Grant. The same thing for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He could get second. I'm not convinced they're going to get him Sancho, Koundé, let's say possibly a defensive midfielder. I just don't see that happening. So that's why I don't give as much blame towards the management, because they're operating under a regime that has history of not giving the managers what they want. If Oli had what he wanted, he'd have Haaland, he'd have Sancho, he'd probably have Grealish if they didn't get relegated. You'd have had Bellingham. So those caliber players make a lot more of a difference. I think Koundé would be a fantastic signing for someone that's 5'10". Like the comment said, he's fantastic in the air. He would be a nice addition next to Harry Maguire, but I'm not convinced that happens, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not convinced that we go and spend that much. I think Sancho might happen. Haaland will not happen. I don't see Haaland in the Man United shirt. I worry he'll go to Chelsea. And I don't expect that much movement. Paul Pogba, like I said, it's dependent on him. If he goes, there's a bit of money to play with. But I'm not as I don't get caught up in the transfers, because I've seen this story every single year. When we want the players to come in that need to come in, or the manager wants it, invariably they get let down.
Yeah, I was absolutely heartbroken when we didn't get Sancho. You guys know how much I wanted Sancho. We desperately needed the right wing, and I keep saying it. We have not replaced the right wing position since Nani, who was very hot and cold as well. So you could even have said we need to replace Nani, and we still haven't moved on from that point where big teams like Manchester City, who I was going to jump in, Haider, I'm not going to lie, and say it's very difficult. They're an isolated case, let's be honest, Manchester City, where you kind of hold back, I feel, and you don't want to kind of compare your club to Manchester City's, because they run completely different. Money isn't an issue for them. They don't really run like a football team the way that Manchester United do, the way that Liverpool do. But you look at it and you think they fill the spots. As you said, they spent so much money on wing backs. And yes, now our wing backs are up to scratch. They're good. I'm very happy with what we've got. Luke Shaw is just playing out his skin at the moment as well. But you look at it elsewhere and you think we need these positions. And I've been able to look at these positions for years. Matic is now too old. We need a defensive mid. For me, I would definitely take one of the West Ham players. I would take Thomas Souček or Declan Rice. For me, they're just probably pound for pound your best player you're going to get, who's Premier League proven at the moment. I can't imagine us getting Ndidi. I think he would cost way much more than what Declan Rice would and Souček. But yeah, I'm just so angry the fact we didn't manage to sign our number one targets in the summer last year. But looking back on it, I can understand slightly, because I'm going to sit in the fence here. I can understand the fact that we were in unprecedented times. No fans.
It was the right decision, I think, probably not to splash out that money, because if you can get Sancho this summer for 20 to 30 million less, I know people say, oh, it's only 20, 30 million. It's still a lot of money in the current COVID finances, COVID times. I think in hindsight, that's only if Man United get him this summer, but in hindsight, it would be the right decision to pass on the 120 million, at that time, and then to bring him in now. I think that's if there's anything I'm going to say the club probably got right, that's if Sancho, this always depends if Sancho comes. I think that was the right decision. It's a lot of money to spend right in these sort of times. And, if we get him next summer, then I don't think it's that much of an issue.
Yeah, I don't think that. Oh, sorry.
I'd just like to add on. I'd just like to add on, but knowing United, like Heather mentioned, like if they get Sancho for 20, 30 million less. So if you're the buying side and you know that the player's value is actually falling down in the market, would you really pay the price upfront, or would you wait further in the summer till the end, if make Dortmund absolutely bleed till the fact that okay, you know what, take him for 60 million? I just feel that United are not that kind of clubs to get deals done early. That's my biggest fear, because we get deals done. Majority of the work is done towards the latter half of the window. We spend a good amount of time negotiating, agent fees and personal terms, and then towards the end of the summer we go ahead and say, you know what, okay, fine, this is what we're willing to offer. But playing into Dortmund's hand is not something I see United doing immediately, and that's what is my fear, because there will come a time where other clubs' affordability will increase, obviously. So there will be competition, even though not many clubs can buy Sancho, but there will be a market for him, and that's what Dortmund are trying to do. So they know that not many clubs can afford him, so they're trying to create a market for him. But I hope United act early on transfers. That's just my only hope, because the biggest positive is that I think, as per Fabrizio Romano, personal terms and agent fees for Sancho's already agreed. So all we have to do is agree a fee with Dortmund. So yeah, that's just one hurdle I think we have in that regard. Just wanted to add on to Hannah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm up to scratch like Akash yourself, and I know Haider, you obviously keep up with stuff in the transfer sense. I wouldn't say that obviously I know that much about all the journalists, kind of who to read. But what I think is I'm trying not to get as involved as what I did last year, because I got let down very, very bad, to be honest, from so many different players. Now to Upamecano, who he's going to go to Bayern and be their starting defender for years to come. He's a great asset. We've missed out on him. As you said as well, how many players have we missed out on in the last couple of years where we could have got them before they went to this next club, and now we're looking at them? Like, you look at Jude Bellingham. I think that was kind of a different case, actually, because we did clearly show interest, and it was a choice of how many minutes he's going to play. Like, he probably wouldn't have started for us. But you look at Haaland, he would definitely have got a game for us, definitely have started. Basically scores every chance he gets, and now we're looking at him possibly. I just don't think it's good enough. And I'm going to kind of talk about this point. Akash, I'd like you to obviously start off with it, and about the recruitment, and if you're happy with the board, if you think it's sufficient enough. Because for me, I don't think it is. I think it's completely off at the moment, and the way they're going about it, yes, we're showing signs of improvement through the outgoings, but we've still got a lot of wages we need to offload to sign these big players if we want to do it in such a difficult time at the moment due to COVID, due to no fans in the stadium. So Akash, I'd like to hear your views on that.
To be very honest, I feel that United are slowly getting there. Like I said, the slow progress is still progress, but is it good enough for a top club like Manchester United? I don't think so. If you notice, clubs all across Europe have this ruthlessness in them. When they don't do well for a season, they say, you know what, let's get our act together and let's just invest in the market. Let's back the manager. Let's get him his top targets, and we'll see where it goes from there. If you look at Barca, if you look at Madrid, if you look at Juventus, if we want to compare ourselves as a big club, we need to act like a big club. And I think there have been several articles which point out and say that, you know what, United are not exactly professional in the way they conduct their transfers. And that is the consensus amongst agents as well. So I don't know how much truth there is in this, but see, I think there is obvious improvement in recruitment, because things were extremely different when Mourinho was at the club. I think we've had this discussion in the podcast before as well, where I've mentioned that when there was a clash between the manager and uh, the board used to say, you know what, we'll get the veto power and we'll say no. That's how Mourinho did not get Maguire, even though Maguire was pretty much a very late on target for Mourinho in the transfer market. I think it was vetoed down. And with regards to how transfers are conducted now and recruitment is done now, I think there's a transfer committee in place. Scouting has majorly improved. I think the manager knows where the strengths and weaknesses lie. I think in terms of who I want to be managing the club, I think Ole has the club's best interest at heart. He knows what the fans want. He knows where the club needs to be. But I think, and I think he has the vision to see a United even without him, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him. He wants to leave a project for the next person to come in and say, you know what, even if I'm not here, you should be the one to lead this, and that's where I think his biggest compliment lies. And I think a lot of work has been done. A lot of wages have been taken off the table. I think if you look at Rojo leaving was a big thing. I think Romero really wanted to leave, but I think still there was no positive the development on that front. But you can see Jesse Lingard trying to make a name for himself. I think I'll just add on here and say that what a transfer it has been for him to West Ham. And I think I couldn't be happier for him because he's such a player who just wants to play on the field. Even though he might not be technically one of the best players in the world, or he might not be the creme layer of the Premier League, I think he would definitely do well at a club like West Ham. And I think maybe him not maybe making a permanent transfer there would make so much sense for him, and United getting a decent fee wouldn't really hurt. We need that kind of money to fund other places as well. So I think recruitment wise, steps are being taken to help make a good team for the near future, for competing for the Premier League. I think we are not there yet to compete in the Champions League. That's a very far off dream in my opinion. I think we need to increase our dominance in the domestic front first, become a good side in the Premier League, and I think we'll go from there. And with regards to Haaland, I think you brought on Haaland. I think it'll be a pretty silly move if he goes to Chelsea. To be honest, I don't see him moving to Chelsea. I don't see how it will further his career in terms of you know, I know Chelsea would really do well if they get Haaland, but I don't see them being such a huge attraction, and I'll tell you why. Because there are clubs who with bigger dominance in Europe that want him. I think it's going to be between Real Madrid and Barcelona. To be very honest, I think if United would have paid that 18-20 million before Dortmund did, they would have got Haaland, but that would have only been for a couple of years because I think Raiola really wanted to insert that release clause, and United were not really ready to insert that release clause because they do not want to be dominated by other clubs in Europe, and they don't believe in getting release clauses inserted. So I think Haaland would be just between Madrid and Barcelona. I think that's where the biggest of the players go, and I think he'll be willing to go there.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to jump back to your points at the start and talk about Ole, because I mean, I think we can all agree Ole is sustainable. And you look at other managers, like in the past, I'm going to take out David Moyes because that was just a short stint. It didn't really change much. Then you look at Louis van Gaal. He brought his own players in, his own philosophy, and left Jose Mourinho a very difficult scenario going into his first season because he had players who didn't fit his system. And it was the same for Mourinho. He brought in players that just didn't really fit Ole's system, but now he's getting rid of the deadwood, and you can't really fault Ole for what he's doing. For me, Haider, you love to ask this question when we used to go on the podcast. I'm still Ole in. I think he's doing a great job. I don't think we'd be able to get any. I think we get a manager who's better than Ole at the moment. I think he's improving every day. And really, I think we'll definitely get the most out of the young players as well, because he knows what it means to play for United, and he knows what players like Amad Diallo, Greenwood. I mean, even if you go younger, Shula Shortire and some of these guys, he knows that bringing these guys into the team, we're going to see benefits and we're going to see a sustainable future. Which, I mean, I'm all about United. I'm all about the philosophy, and I know the philosophy, which is bring through youth, back the manager, and go through hard times basically as a group, as a worldwide organisation, probably you call it. And that is kind of what we're going back to. I don't really want. I'm not up for letting that go yet. I'm really not up for moving on to a different manager, different philosophies. So I'm happy where I'm at just now. And I mean, we spoke about this before we started, and we were talking about Jesse Lingard, and I was watching the game. I've got my TV above me here, and great result for them and David Moyes against Spurs. I just want to hear, Haider, before we move on. Obviously, Akash, you've spoke about Lingard possibly moving him on would be the right idea. He wasn't ever going to be one of the best players for us, Jesse Lingard, but he did go through a really tough time due to family issues.
Right.
Now he is definitely seeing improvements and benefits from playing first team football for West Ham. So for me, just before we start, I think if he continues this form, we can't sell him. He's a great rotational player, can play out in the right, can play down the middle. I would bring him back. I would give him a chance because we have definitely seen the best of Jesse Lingard. Where he was in the shout for being like the Jack Grealish of that time, one of England's best prospects. So we've definitely got a player on our hands, I think. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
I love Jesse Lingard. I've always loved Jesse Lingard. I think what people struggle to distinguish between is the player and the personality. And look, modern football's changed where players are going to be in social media. Players aren't what they were. There's no Roy Keanes anymore. We all love Roy Keane, but there is no Roy Keane. Players are different. Like Paul Pogba's different, isn't he? He's someone with a personality. He's a bit quirky. He's not what perhaps some older fans would associate with, a midfielder for Manchester United. I think with Jesse Lingard, he's been dropped into that category. I really think he's talented, and we're seeing it now. We know. I mean, look, with this form, you could be saying he could go to the Euros. He's talented. Jesse's contributed some massive moments for Manchester United over the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, scored goals.
That's a big statement, Haider. That's a big statement there from you, mate.
Which one?
That's a very interesting statement. I'd agree with you.
Yeah,
I mean, Scotland will win anyway. Scotland will beat England anyway, and even if Jesse Lingard's playing, even if Jack Grealish is playing, he'll still win. And a quick one, Akash, you better be supporting Scotland in this Euros because you obviously don't live in Europe, but
yeah,
come on.
But Tony plays for Scotland. No, the thing. Yeah, go on.
I'd be happy to support Scotland.
No, the thing is, right, I'm actually going to disagree with Robbie on bringing him back, and I'll tell you why. Because I've had this discussion a lot on my own podcast and with other people that playing for Manchester United, and it's quite clear you're seeing this with players leaving. So I'm going to bring Romelu Lukaku into the fold as well with this. That playing for Manchester United is more than just having talent. It's more than just being good enough to be able to say that I'm at this club and I can do something. I can try and make an impact, try and imprint myself into the glorious history that we have. What I will say with Jesse Lingard, talented, yes, but you have to have the mental fortitude as well to be able to cope with the other things that come with being at Manchester United. And you have to remember, and I always say this, you look at players that play who are local lads in their local clubs. So I go back to Steven Gerrard. I know it's a United podcast, but Steven Gerrard, the pressure that he had being the local lad. You look at the way that Scholesy, Giggsy, Becks, all these players, the Nevilles, the way that they were able to shoulder that pressure, because invariably you're always going to get people that say, and they say this from McTominay, why is he in the squad? He's only here because he's a local lad. Like, he's not good enough. And this is a problem you get with a lot of fans. Maybe they don't appreciate, understand the fabric of the club and how important promoting from within is. And we've got some fantastic youngsters coming in. But with Jesse, I've always said that just go and play football and go and enjoy yourself. And I always talk about revisionism. I think in our fan base, we do a lot of revisionism. And what I mean is, like, for example, I tweeted out just before this, I mean, Lukaku's tearing it up in Italy. No one can say he isn't. He looks world class. But do people forget that when he was here, he just didn't really fit the system. He wasn't happy. He'd bulked up and he was not anywhere near the player we're seeing now. Like, we need to understand that Johnny Evans is another one that when these players were here, in the last few years of Johnny Evans' time at Manchester United, I remember his confidence was low, the mistakes he was making, no doubting his talent, but he had to move away to rebuild his career, rebuild his confidence. And now Johnny Evans is, for me, currently on form, one of the best centre-backs in the league. But would he have done that staying at Manchester United? No, he wouldn't. And that's how I look at Jesse. I look at Smalling as well. People saying, the revisionism. Oh, Smalling's a better defender than Maguire. When VAR came in, everybody said that Chris Smalling
How
is
can
someone.
people even make this statement?
But this
It's
is what
hilarious.
happens. But this is what happens.
Hilarious.
You've
How
seen
can
it.
people even? I'm honestly lost for words. When I hear people make such statements, do they not think
But it's
Smalling?
true. Yeah, but this is what you see.
Smalling had. I'll just like to add to what you just said, Heather. You know what, Smalling, when he was here at United, and he used to make those silly mistakes that
Yeah.
cost you games. That you're in a good space in a game, and suddenly you're 1-0 down because Smalling or Jones make that one mistake.
Flashbacks.
So
Yeah.
it used to be horrific. Those Jones own goals and the Smalling errors. So when Smalling actually went to Italy, that's where he actually got the play, mentality in terms of what, I'm just going to concentrate on my football and not that added pressure that comes for playing for United. And that's why not everyone is made for United, because
Exactly.
nobody gets asked so many questions as to why you're not performing every other game. You know what? If you look at Chelsea, if you look at Arsenal, they're allowed to have 5, 6, 7, 8 bad results, and no one's going to even say a word to them. Same goes for Liverpool. But when it's United, it's suddenly, United are really the worst team in the league. They can't do anything right. They're the worst team in Europe. They're the biggest embarrassment that ever exists. And that's what angers me, because the sensationalism that is around United, like you rightly mentioned, that will always remain. So it's up to players who can actually manage that. And I think Bruno Fernandes, when he actually came in, he actually upped his game with the sensationalism. So everyone, knew for a fact that he's no joke. And till now, I get to see tweets saying that, Bruno Fernandes is not better than Havertz. Bruno Fernandes is not better than Ziyech. He just scores penalties. If you actually see his game, it's marvelous. So I think I just like to say that sensationalism around United will always exist, and players need to step up when they really need to.
Yeah, that's literally exactly what I wanted to say. I mean, Akash hit the nail on the head. Is that sensationalism, the revisionism? Like, I really like Jesse Lingard, but I think I do what you see where you're coming from, Robbie. He'll come back, but I think he's got to go and enjoy his football now, and I don't think he's going to do that Man United. And like I was going back to the point about the local lad, there's always an extra pressure. Look at Marcus, the extra pressure on him from certain factions of the fan base that think he shouldn't be there because he can't finish, or all this rubbish that you see, the sensationalism, as Akash said. And this is what I'm trying to say, that sometimes it's better for a local lad to go away, go and play somewhere without the pressure, where you can just go and enjoy your football. And look, it's a West Ham side that are playing fantastic stuff. I'm delighted for David Moyes. I really am. The 10 years he's had since Manchester United have been lows. I mean, upon lows, upon lows. I never wanted him at United, but he never really got a fair crack of the whip. He'd made mistakes. He shouldn't sack the backroom staff. But, these things are in the past now. But for Jesse, go maximize as much as we can get for him. Shake his hand, say well done. But when I look at other players like Ross Barkley's another one at Everton, had to get out. It was just so much pressure on him. And like I said about the revisionism, Romelu Lukaku didn't fit the system. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to keep him, but said, look, if you're going to play, you have to be able to be fluid across the front three. You're going to have to sometimes play on the right. Like we see with our front line, Martial drifts to the left. We see Marcus go central. Mason and Marcus switch wings. You've got to be able to be fluid across the front three. Lukaku wasn't prepared to do that. And he's now gone to Italy, a league, as we said before, Akash said before this, that suits him. Possibly Spain could suit him as well. He's in a league that suits him. He's trimmed up as well. He's playing for a manager that knows exactly how to get the best out of him. Antonio Conte won him at Chelsea. All these factors fans seem to forget. It's not just about player A is playing well, so when he comes to this team, he's going to play well here. That's not how it works. So it's just ridiculous. Our fan base does that sort of revisionism more than anyone else. I love Jesse. I hope that he really has a great time at West Ham. And I hope he gets his permanent move. And I hope United then look towards the academy, because there's some good young players. Even someone like Diallo. I know Jesse's more of a 10. Then you hope Van der Beek's now going to step up, because I do think that the qualities that Jesse has and the qualities that Van der Beek have are very similar. Bruno Fernandes is a number 10 who likes ball to feet. He's creative. Van der Beek and Jesse both like to pick up pockets. They like to make runs, into space. I don't think they're both similar players to Bruno Fernandes. So it's now on Van der Beek. We've got our replacement. I think Van der Beek has a higher ceiling, but again, I think Van der Beek is a player that needs to needs to find his way in this league and in this squad before he can really make a difference. And until that happens, we'll see the player that he is. But I'm not convinced Jesse should come back. I think he looks happy, and we should fulfill his wishes to go and play and enjoy his football again.
Yeah, so I'm the guy on the other end of the argument here, and I don't know if it is more down to the fact that I've just kind of an emotional kind of love for Jesse Lingard, because I have grown up with quite a lot of good memories from Jesse Lingard playing, and he's had a good couple of seasons. And I've also watched him when I was very young play for under 21s, 23s, playing right down the ranks. And he's a very hard-working player. Yes, he likes to have fun. Yes, he likes to do all his dances, but I think that adds a bit of character to him. So probably, for me, I think it's more of a kind of emotional kind of thing that I've got an agenda like for him, and I want to see him do well. But yeah, West Ham's a great fit for him. David Moyes is in a good build. But yeah, My United Analytics, thanks mate for tuning in. Great to have you here. And I'm just going to go on that point actually, guys, just before we move on. So we obviously do match previews and reviews. We get all fans on. Whoever wants to come on is able to, basically. And all you need to do is just drop us a message and you'll get on and you can rant to the guys. Here's one of them. Here's one of the hosts here. Jesse Lingard needs to move on. Declan Rice, wow, what a player he is, really.
I agree with Cam there for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that United are interested in him. I think Lampard was as well, a huge fan, but Chelsea were wary of the fact that they weren't ready to spend so much on a player of his ability. But I do think that if he is willing to move this summer, I think it'll take a hefty fee. It'll definitely take a hefty fee. I think if my estimates are right, it's likely to cost somewhere between 50 million. And I don't think United are going to spend that much, really, to be honest. Even though I want United to get a DM, because I think Matic is definitely on the last legs. And McTominay isn't really the definition of a DM. So I would say that is one of the positions that needs to be filled. But I think even if Pogba goes, my biggest concern, to be very honest, is that United have already replaced Pogba with Van de Beek. That seems to be the rationale behind that signing, because I can't see any reason why Van de Beek is not featuring, unless I think they are waiting for Pogba's situation to become a little more clear. I think if Pogba does stay, and I really want him to stay, because I think with regards to Pogba, when he's allowed to play his football without any media attention, without anything, and he's just allowed to concentrate on the game, I think there's no better player in the world. And there are days when I just see him and I'm like, wow, did we really have this player in our squad, and he's been here all along and we've not seen this side. And there are days where he just doesn't turn up as per his will. So I think that doubt regarding Pogba still exists in the fan base, and there's a huge conflict. But I'd be really happy if he stays, because I think he needs to commit, or either he needs to commit to the club or he needs to leave. And I think it's going to be a big summer for him.
Robbie, can I add something regarding the sort of the Van de Beek Pogba debate?
Yeah, definitely. Right? Yeah, go for it.
This might be a bit unpopular. I'm not convinced with Donny Van de Beek for several reasons, and I'm not convinced with the rationale. I actually agree with Akash that Van de Beek is a Pogba replacement. I think that's why he was brought in. But I do think if that's the case, then the scouting team needed to give themselves their heads a bit of a wobble and actually know what sort of player they're bringing in. Because Van de Beek and Pogba, I'm not saying Akash thinks this, but there's a lot of this view in the fan base that, oh, well, yeah, Van de Beek's only going to play when Pogba goes and he'll slot straight in. They're completely different players. Like I said earlier, Van de Beek is a very, very clever footballer, fantastic spatial awareness. He is not someone that is going to pick out a pass like Paul Pogba from deep. So players that say, fans that say, go and play him in the deep position, He's not that player. Playing number 6 or number 8 for Ajax is completely different to playing number 6 and number 8 for Manchester United. I always say this. Ajax dominated territory. They dominated possession when they were there. How many times did United do that in games in the Premier League? It was less physical. The Eredivisie is also more one pace. The Premier League, you're expected to change pace. It's very intense. And Van der Beek just hasn't really settled in that respect. Then there comes a physicality of it as well. Nice to see you here, James. The physicality as well, which he hasn't quite got to. He's not winning those second balls. I'm not convinced. I just think that, as a comment from Cam just said, if Manchester United want to win anything, they've got to retain Paul Pogba or bring in a player similar. Donny van der Beek, I'm putting my neck out on the line here. It's not so much being reactionary, but seeing what I see, I think he's a number 10. I think he hasn't done enough when he has played. Yeah, I'm not. Cam saying here, I'm not convinced with Van der Beek. He hasn't done enough. I'd rather Pogba leave for free than sell. Interesting. When I look at Donny van der Beek as well, I'm convinced that one, fans think he's better than he is, because I don't think he's as good as fans think fans think he is. And the second point I would say is that I'm not too sure many fans actually have watched what he did at Ajax, because you talk about that one-touch football. Well, Man United don't have players that do that. And remember that he grew up with these players in the academy. We talk about that, the academy and the players that sort of, come up together. Ajax are one of the clubs that do that. If United were going to get a player from Ajax, a perfect player that they should have got out of the holy trinity of De Ligt, of De Jong and of Van der Beek. De Jong was a player United needed, someone to sit deep who could pick a pass. I think
he's
Van der Beek's
struggling in the Spanish league, mate.
Yeah, he's struggling. Yeah, it was never. Yeah, but it was never the right move. I think De Ligt made the wrong move. He should have gone to Barca. I think Frankie De Jong was perfect for Manchester United, and I think Van der Beek should have
come to United. All of them should have come to United.
That would have been the dream. Yeah, we could have had a little reunion. Yeah, but I'm not convinced. I just think Donny van der Beek, you have to show more. People say he hasn't been enough opportunities. Ollie's played him, but the difference is that when you put Van der Beek into the number 10 position, like when Ollie was, or like Bruno was playing at number 10, you see the difference. It's not just about on the ball, off the ball. Bruno Fernandes is tenacious in his press. He's not passive. Van der Beek's passive. And then the 4-2-3-1 system, which we're playing right now, you need your number 10 to stay centrally. Van der Beek likes to drift into the channel. It completely disrupts everything. I think you've got to give time. You've looked at Fred, but the thing with Fred is that it wasn't a system problem with Fred. It wasn't thinking, where's he going to fit in? He was just terrible, wasn't he? He hadn't adapted to the speed and the physicality of the league. Once Fred has done that, you're right, he can fit into the double pivot. But when you're looking at Van der Beek, I'm thinking, where are you going to play him? Because he's not going to play in the double pivot. And people that think he is, they need to watch him properly and actually understand what Ollie wants from the two that sit. A 4-2-3-1 with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is different to a 4-2-3-1 at Bayern. They're just different because different managers have different expectations of the roles. So I think Van der Beek's long-term future, unless he can radically adapt his game, because that's what it's about. People say, well, change the system. No, because he's not a good enough player to change your whole system. So I think his long-term future is not at Manchester United. I think he's a fantastically talented player. He's got great football IQ. You can see that. He's smart. But I don't see where he fits into United's current system. I don't think you suddenly bring in Declan Rice, that you go and play 4-3-3 and he's a player to play there. I really don't think so, because again, this is Manchester United's 4-3-3, not Ajax's 4-3-3. And I think he'll probably leave maybe in a couple of years. He'll go and play somewhere in Italy or Spain. I think he'll be a fantastic player. But I just don't think...
Haider, I think you're being way too harsh this time. I think you're being a little harsh, mate.
I've had a lot of discussions about this. I've had a lot of discussions, a lot of thinking. I've watched him, and I just don't think that he will make it at Manchester United. Not because of his ability, but because you've got to think about the fit and you've got to think about the system currently at Manchester United. And is he an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer player? I'm not convinced.
Haider, I'll just like to, rather... not debate, but just counter to what you've said, because I think when you mentioned, Fred wasn't given time, and now that he's turned out to be a great player, not great player, as in great in terms of adapting to the league, I think you can't expect Van der Beek to come on for 15-20 minutes and play like, one of the best players in the league. I think when I saw him at Ajax, he's a no-nonsense player, and I'll tell you why. He likes to play as close to the goal as it gets. So, like you mentioned, he doesn't play Pogba's position. He's closer to the goal. He likes to play as a number 10. Um, I think that it's way too early to get the judgments out. I agree to what you've said in terms of his adaptability. Yes, he's not had the best of games in whenever he's come on, but I see a certain game intelligence, and when I see that he can really offer things in the long term, and it's all about how the manager uses him. And I think that if United give him time. And Van der Beek has been extremely patient so far. You see, generally we see articles with regards to agents and the players saying, you know what, I'm not happy, I'm not playing. But he is into he's made this big move from uh, Ajax to Manchester United. I think what happens in life is sometimes is that you get impacted by previous incidents. So imagine if you're signing a pre-contract with Real Madrid and suddenly everything falls apart. And now what you do is you say, okay, let me make a move to Manchester United. And sometimes in life we do not understand what's happening behind the scenes, and we are not part of all the conversations that take place. But I feel that Donny deserves a lot of time. He needs to be given the time. He needs to be given that place for to settle in. And I think we'll be in a much better position to judge him as a player when the next season gets over. Then we'll be
Where do you
actually able
think
to.
his best position is?
You know what, I had actually seen and analyzed his positions at Ajax, and I got to know that the season he played last for Ajax, he actually played as a DM, as a CM,
Yeah.
and as an AM. So that's three positions covered in one. So when the club you play at doesn't know your best position in itself, and the club you're actually moving to thinks that you know what, you might be great in all three, so you're like the complete package. But that's not the reality. The Premier League is the toughest league to play in. It is the toughest in terms of quality, and I think the biggest example in front of you is Thiago. Thiago, see, things are at Liverpool are not rosy because they don't have a complete, they don't have fit CVs. No one cares. But that's a situation really, because you expect Henderson to play alongside Thiago and them to be tearing the league apart. But Thiago on his own as well hasn't been that great. So you can see as to why even the best of players take time to adapt to the Premier League. So so I think it's not the right time to even bring up Donny, because. There are other players in the team who need to be outed out first and I don't think Donny is one of them who needs to leave at the moment or even be considered to leaving. Maybe in the future, like Heather said, you know what, Heather, there might be a time where the club might decide as to sell him, and and maybe cash in the value and sell him on onwards, like we did with Lukaku. You know how we got a similar fee as to what we bought him for, so that was a good thing. So maybe at a later stage, if things don't work out, but I think now is not the right time to discuss Donny. Your opinions about him have been accurate in terms of analysis, but I think a little bit patience is needed in that arena.
So fair points. The last point I want to add, probably quickly, Robbie, is you bring a good point about Thiago. Again, I tweeted yesterday about Thiago. No doubting the quality. Same with Van Dijk. No doubting the quality. Intelligent player. You can see it. You can see that almost when he plays with Han Mata, people on his similar wavelength. You see, right, this is a clever player. He has understanding. He's understanding of the spaces. Picks out the pockets, half spaces. He makes good runs. People aren't tracking his runs. I understand. But you also, when you're looking at a team, you've got to look at how they fit into the system. That's how I look at it. With Thiago, I always thought, why are Liverpool making this move? Because he just doesn't fit in what they want from the midfield. And you're seeing that now. I've always said it, and I know there's a lot of slander towards Thiago because fans like to do it because he plays for Liverpool. I get it. Thiago, if you put him into Manchester United team, into City's team, I think he would have seen a really good player. So sometimes when a player comes into a team, and I think this is what I'm seeing with Donny van der Beek, and you're right, maybe more patience. And a lot of people said that to me. They said you're being too quick on Donny. And maybe I am, but I'm putting my neck out on the line on this one. And I truly do believe this, that I don't see his long-term future at Manchester United because of the fact that unless Ole Gunnar Solskjaer decides to change the system, unless Bruno Fernandes is shifted out of the number 10 position, or there's so many factors to it, unless, let's say, playing devil's advocate, another manager comes in and gets the best out of Donny. But right now, as it stands, you look at the Manchester United's midfield. Bruno has got the number 10 position. Obviously, Pogba. I put McTominay ahead of Van der Beek. I put Fred ahead of Van der Beek in the double pivot because I don't think that Donny can play that right now. I put Matic ahead of him. So right now, Donny Van der Beek, for me, if you're going to pick your midfield tomorrow, he's the last option. Not because he's more talented than Fred. He's more talented, I think, on the ball than McTominay. But that doesn't translate to suddenly then you put him in the team because you've got certain roles for certain players. If you're going to play Donny deep, you need him to do the defensive work. You need him to hold his position. You need him to be simple with the ball. You need him to look for progressive passes forward to try and break the lines. All of these things I haven't seen from him, and I don't see, unless he radically changes and adapts his whole game, I don't see how he does that.
But do you not think that? Do you honestly think that Donny Van der Beek was going to go in the role of like basically taking Pogba's? Because I don't think he was one of our number one targets. I think that he get brought in for a bit of versatility in the midfield, as Akash said, where he can play the deep line role, he can play the kind of box to box role, or he can play just behind the striker as well. And I think that is what he got brought in for. So the thing that I don't understand, and I think he does have a lot of longevity in his career at United, which I need to disagree with you on about the fact he's going to move on soon, possibly. I think he's got a lot of longevity because he does fit these different roles. We've just not seen it enough. Ole hasn't. He must. He's obviously way more kind of. His comfort lies. Let's be real with McTominay, Fred.
Yeah.
Obviously Bruno Fernandes, Pogba. You know, it lies with those type of players. Even Matic ahead of him because they play that role specifically. And for me, if you look at Scott McTominay's role, he's a big guy. He can. I mean, we've seen a lot more of him going forward from his youth days at United, where he's been able to push forward and kind of bring a lot more to the game and play without Fred. I think he can play without Fred. Whereas Fred, he brings. I don't really know what Fred brings, to be honest. He just kind of floats about, and I don't like Fred that much, but. I don't think Donny Van der Beek was going to go in that position in the first place. I think Donny Van der Beek was meant to be versatile, and we haven't seen enough of him. If you're bringing him on the last 10 minutes, no. But if you play him in the Europa League against, let's say, Real Sociedad, you would probably see a lot of benefits in his game and reasons for actually having him in the team. That's why I just don't understand. As Natalie said, who's been on the podcast quite a lot, and fans speak of him like he's the second coming of Christ, and it's
that's
true.
the problem.
Everyone pushes this on him. Like, they're so desperate to see Amad Diallo. They're so desperate to see our new signings instantly. Do
you know the issue is, Robbie? That's a great point by Nat. But the biggest problem is that it's shiny new toys, right? Isn't it? With Donny Van der Beek, the pressure's so big on him to perform that when he goes and has a 6 out of 10 performance, there's two sides. The ones that will absolve him of everything, and they'll be like, no, he's just joined, and the other ones that stick the knife in. I really like what I see from like the attributes I see from Donny Van der Beek. He's exactly the sort of player that if you said to me before the season we're going to sign this sort of player, I was so excited. But you know, he's
a tidy player. He's a tidy player.
Yeah. But you want to see there's more to football, and there's more to him being this United side than being a tidy player. So if he's playing deeper, he's expected to do what McTominay and Fred do, essentially, which is to be physical. And that's what Pogba has added to his game. People say he's better than Pogba deep. He is not better than Pogba deep. Pogba, yes, he can hold on to the ball too long, but Pogba's physical. He can shield the ball. He can carry. Van der Beek doesn't do any of that, so you can't have him playing deep. And then also the other side of it is the passing side. I think somewhere which McTominay has improved and Fred has improved, although I agree with you. I think Fred's a good squad player. I think if United want to go to the next level, they probably need to upgrade in that position. But I don't see Van der Beek make, as Akash said, you know, he plays it safe. He's tidy. I don't see him playing those passes. Can he develop that? I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him. When I watched him at Ajax, what I liked about him, he was so dangerous in and around the box. That's where he excels. And that's where I want to see him play. But you've got probably the most informed number 10 in world football right now in Bruno Fernandes. And
top 5 players in the world, easily.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. So it's difficult. I feel sorry for him. That's where I'm coming from. I don't want to see him play deep because he can't right now. If he develops the other side of his game, I would happily love to see him play deep. But he can't right now. And fans that say that, you go and put him in a big game in the Premier League and he's going to get absolutely ripped apart. And you got to remember there's two sides of the game. There's defensive side of the game, but it's defensive side, the discipline. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, why does he play Fred and McTominay? Because they're disciplined, because they'll give you the platform for the front four to go and do what they're so good at doing. So when I look at Van der Beek, where do I want to see him play? I want to see him in and around the box. I want to see him playing those 1-2s, getting in there, late runs and finishing. He's a really good finisher, for a midfielder. But right now, when you've got Bruno Fernandes in front of you, and this is probably where Ollie doesn't need to maybe rest Bruno a bit more, give Donny those minutes. But the problem is that when you bring Donny in, and he has had, Robbie and Akash, he has had full games he started, and he hasn't done nearly enough to even be considered for starting role the next game. Because when you're given those opportunities, I agree, the 10 minutes here and there aren't helpful, but he started games. The Watford game, for an example, he was a passenger all game for me. And this is a problem. You have to take the opportunities you're given. And for me, like I said, if you're picking the team today, he hasn't given me any reason to say, right, Donny, you're starting in this position. Because, and like you said, the fans have such a high expectation. He's not as good as what fans think. Perhaps I'm being harsh on him, and I'll be delighted if I'm wrong. That'd be amazing. I want to be wrong. I don't have an ego.
That's what I was just going to say. That Haider, I think no one would be happier if you're pro.
I'd love to be wrong. I was wrong about McTominay.
And I'll just like to say that Haider, like you rightly mentioned, Bruno being in the best of forms doesn't really help Van der Beek in any way. I think Bruno Fernandes has just turned the league upside down in terms of the numbers that he's produced. And if you look at the impact that he's had, I don't think any player has had that kind of impact since Robin van Persie at United, and Van Persie led us to the title. So United need to match Bruno's ambition. I know it sounds wrong when I say that, but if the player itself is so ambitious and knows what the history of the club is all about, and if and knows where the clubs belong at the top, then the club need to keep players like Pogba. I just like to go back in history and just say, if you remember Wayne Rooney wanting to leave United and saying, you know what, I'm leaving. I don't think the club's matching my ambition anymore. And that's when Sir Alex said, okay, wait, hold up, we'll sign players. And there's a whole saga as to him leaving, and then he decided to stay back. But that's what I am afraid of, that we'll reach that stage somewhere in the near future where Bruno will say, you know what, hold up, I'm not going to stay anymore because you're not building a good squad around me. So that's why we need to keep players like Pogba. And, adding Van der Beek in the mix only adds the quality to push further. It doesn't mean that Van der Beek has to start all the games. Bernardo Silva doesn't start all the games. Mahrez doesn't start all games. It's all about contributing when you're asked to contribute. And that's where Van der Beek really needs to step up. And I have faith that he will. And I'm just hopeful that everything will fall in place for him just like it did for Fred.
Yeah, so, I think you summed that up perfectly. We all want him to succeed at United. We want him to do well and push on. Let's be honest. We don't want any United player to fail at the first hurdle, really. We want him to succeed and make a difference in the team, even if it is just a rotational player or whatever you think. So, I'm going to need to go and charge my computer. I'm on 11%, but I'll still be listening. I've got my AirPods in. So, Haider, I'm going to start you off in this question just before I need to go and do that. And I want to know what players have shocked you this season so far at United. And I'm going to open this up to you, and I'm going to say this can be due to poor form. One player sticks in my mind, or due to just blowing all expectations and succeeding at United. I'd love if you could start off with Luke Shaw, because for me, like whenever I was on your podcast, shout out obviously for having me on. I love my time on it, and I used to absolutely slaughter Luke Shaw every time I went on and say he was unfit, a waste of a jersey, looks out of place, lost at points as well. Good defensively.
I remember it so well.
Brandon
I
Williams is better.
Yeah.
And he's completely blown all expectations. So, Haider, I'd love if you could start off with him. Obviously, I'm going to need to run just now and get that, but I'll be back in a few seconds.
Nice one. Luke Shaw, absolutely. I think Luke Shaw is the one for me, and Akash, you probably agree with this, he's been United's player of the season. I know Bruno Fernandes has been fantastic. My doubts on Luke Shaw, I had a lot of doubts about him. I think my biggest doubts were, could he offer the attacking threat that you expect from fullback in the modern game? It's not enough now to be a fantastic defender. You need more from your fullbacks. You need to provide width. They need to be overlapping and underlapping. Something Luke Shaw was not doing enough. I questioned his engine, whether he had the physical capability to get up and down that wing, but he's absolutely changed United's game. And you see the difference, don't you, when Shaw plays and Telles plays? I really like Telles, but they're two completely different fullbacks. And there's a very interesting, I can't remember where I read it or heard it, so I can't really give it credit, but someone said that what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to do, and this kind of relates to his, I would say as a player, as a manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't have a defined philosophy. I don't think you look at his team and think, right, we know exactly, they're not like Pep Guardiola's side who have an encompassing philosophy. They're not like Klopp's side who have an encompassing philosophy. But what you do get from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is he has the ability to change the system here and there with games. I think one of the most impressive things is that Ole looks like he's building a squad which can maybe do it all. So I think Telles, where he really excels, is that he obviously has a good end product, but his balls from deep are very, very good, sort of crossfield balls for the right, the winger to run onto it. And I think what's been brilliant is that we've also got Shaw, who can now get up and down that wing, but he's been fantastic. It shows that when you add real quality to the squad, and we've been calling for months and months or years to add quality to the squad, bring in players that can take the first team players' spots. Don't bring in players that are just going to come in under, because you need people that are going to push each other. More competition in places in the squad breeds better performances. We've seen that with Luke Shaw. So for me, he's definitely improved. I think the biggest thing, what I questioned, and I remember you guys remember the goal against Tottenham when Bergwijn completely destroyed Harry Maguire for pace. But Luke Shaw was also at fault there. He used to come very narrow with his positioning, giving too much space either on the inside or the outside. One of the biggest things that Shaw's done is he's actually improved his one-on-one defending. So it's not just the going forward where he's improved. I think defensively he has as well. Right now, he's on form. He's the best left fullback in the league. I think, bar none, really. Chilwell had a good start. And I think another player that's really surprised me, and it's obvious as well, is Anthony Martial in a negative way. I'm really, really disappointed in what I've seen from him, and I can't quite put my finger. Yeah, it's just I don't know what it is.
Just inconsistencies throughout. It's just it's really annoying. Like in Europe, caused us results, caused this.
You know what it is, right? With Martial, the biggest thing on Martial is that what I question is that we've seen when players come in. We saw it with Zlatan. He got his shirt taken off him. Okay, I'll give him a little bit of slack. He was young. Obviously, his head dropped, and the way Mourinho sort of handled him wasn't right. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has given him his number 9 shirt. He's given him all the confidence to go and be my number 9. And he had a fantastic end to last season. But to see what we're seeing now, and we've seen Cavani come in, and I think Cavani is showing him up hugely. Cavani was injured for nearly half a year. He's 34 years old. But the way that he plays, the way that he presses, the way that the effort he puts in, the positions he takes up, that every single ball he chases like it's his last. Someone said to me he's as fit as a butcher's dog. He really is. He's just an absolute example for the rest of the squad. You need more players like that to come in who are going to go and raise the level and bring in experience. But Martial has been so disappointing. I'm really disappointed in what I've seen from him. And personally, I think if United can get some money for him, then I think they should shift him on, because I'm seeing Mason improve week in, week out. He's a player I want to say that's impressed me. I know people are going to say, really? He's been poor for most of the season. I want to talk about the last month or so, because Mason Greenwood hasn't scored as many goals. Mason Greenwood's had a difficult year. You've seen with his off-field problems, his best friend, that Manchester City player, committed suicide. I've had a friend that's committed suicide. The mental effect of that is absolutely horrible. I wasn't in the limelight for that. And you're looking at the way that he's been hounded by the media after the England incident. We saw that article the other day about what sort of man would he be? What rubbish journalism is that? All these things, and the way that Ollie's handled him, the club have handled him, has been exemplary. But what he's added to his game, especially the last month, I would say, is he's much more creative. He's much more involved in the build-up. He's now starting to cross the ball a lot more. He's starting to pick out passes. He looks like he's bulked up. He's more direct. I'm so impressed with him. I'm so excited by him. He excites me probably more than any player at Manchester United. Mason Greenwood, I would say, apart from some of the lads that are coming through in the academy. So I would say those three players are the ones that have surprised me in a positive and negative way. I'm interested to see what Akash says, because I know we all sat here, didn't we? We slaughtered Luke Shaw, and rightly so, by the way. He was not showing anything to suggest that he could hit this level. Credit to Ollie, credit to Shaw as well for knuckling down and really proving 95% of the fan base wrong.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, the guys that you said are just that came to my mind as well. I think you were spot on with it, and that's a good reflection on Ole, the fact that he's managing to get the most out of a guy like Luke Shaw, who really looked as if his career was over at United. And I mean, I think if we talk any longer just now, it will be on to the actual game tonight against Newcastle. So we'll go on to Akash, and then that'll be us for today. So Akash, who do you think has been a shock this season? Who do you think's done well for starters? I'm going to guess you'll say Luke Shaw.
Absolutely, it has to be Luke Shaw. I think I am extremely happy about the fact that I've been proven wrong about a player, and it makes me delighted to know that he's actually succeeding at the club. He's won Player of the Year once, and I think he's giving Bruno Fernandes a very good fight this year as well. You know what? There has been so many moments in Shaw's career when people have thought, you know what, it's just not going to happen. He needs to leave the club. But he has always put his head down and worked hard, and this is a result of his own hard work and also the manager. So I would just like to say that if Ole has shown faith in him, Shaw has paid that back, and that's what we need to see from a lot of more players. When I see Shaw, I see a player who's playing for the manager, and I think there is no better compliment than that to the manager and the player himself. So I think that's what we need to see from more players in the squad. I think when I look at De Gea, uh, pains hurts my heart to see a player of his prime, a player who I used to worship, a player who was my favorite at United, and to fall from that to the player that he's become now. It hurts because not all players, you know, shine all the time, and it's a harsh reality of football that even the best go through the worst of forms. So I want to see a similar commitment what Shaw has given to Ole from De Gea, from Martial, from these players who the manager continuously trusts and starts games, but them not being able to pay back the faith. So it's up to the players to give managers that feeling that I'm glad that I'm starting this player, because there will come a time, and it has happened in the past, that Ole will show his ruthlessness in terms of not starting Marshall for a long, long time if he doesn't start, because the manager knows that it's not only Marshall's job on the line, it's his own job on the line. And there have been no renewal talks as of now with regards to Ole. So even though Ole might not really want to focus on that, he will want to, leave a squad behind which is, irrespective of him staying or not, he would want to leave a squad behind which is good enough for the next manager, like I'd mentioned before. So does Marshall stay and become part of that plan? It's hard to say for me, really, because it's a flip and flop season for him. Especially the last season, he played so well, and suddenly we see a player who's not stepping up. When you look at his game, he used to be so active, and he used to be so that there was a willingness in taking on players. Now we just see a slow, tired version of the old Marshall, and it's just not cutting, is it? So. I would say one player who I really think has improved is Luke Shaw, and credit where due. And one player who has really not stepped up, I would say De Gea and Martial. These are two players who you'd expect better from, but are currently just not up for it.
Yeah, guys, thanks very much for coming on. It's obviously been great talking to you. I mean, it's not been a thing for a while now, but
let's make it regular, mate.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to quickly just log off here, try and scout the guys to try and get them on for more podcasts, because I'm pretty sure all the viewers will have enjoyed it. Thanks, guys, for obviously getting involved in the comments as well. You've been great. And Haider and United Link Akash, thanks for coming on. You're always welcome, as you know.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robbie. It's always good to be back with you guys, and I love discussing football with you all. You guys are the best, and I wish you good health. And just want you to guys stay happy, stay safe, and thanks for everyone who's tuned in today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, guys. So if you haven't already, we would appreciate it if you could subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on the socials.